Hi, and welcome to Artisan Acre. We're actually in the middle of making bread dough. But in the process of making the bread dough, we wanted to show you how you can make easy fried donuts out of it. So these videos, even though they're actually one, you can watch them separately. But if you don't know what the dough recipe is for making the bread dough and you actually want to do the donut, you need to refer back to our video on bread dough making number 2. We have one out there from an earlier time, but this bread dough that we're making now replaces that one. So our dough is risen, and you can see it's lightly floured on top. I need to flour my work surface because I'm going to be rolling out my dough just like I were making biscuits. Just take a good chunk of your dough off, set it on your floured surface. You'll want to turn it over in the flour a couple times so your rolling pin doesn't stick to it. Now, how thick you want to roll it out depends on how thick you want your donuts. I recommend probably about a 1/2 inch. Then you're going to let that rise a little bit before you put them in the hot oil. I happen to have a donut cutter, but you can use a canning jar lid. As you can see, I didn't push all the way through. And set that aside to rest. And you can also, after you do the first one, dip your cutter in the flour. Then you just go through the process until you get all the donuts out that you want. Alright, so now that we got several donuts cut out, we're going to lay them on a tray. Donut holes. I guess I need a sharper donut cutter. We'll lay them on a tray just like we would if we were making rolls, just to rise for a few minutes, to rest before we put them in the hot oil. Put them on top of the warming oven. I do my deep frying on the stove top. I don't have a deep fryer. You just make sure your oil's good and hot. A lot of, for donuts, you put a piece of dough in and if it starts floating right away and bubbling, it's ready to go. It's bubbling. Give it a second, it starts floating, we're good to go. Used to be, my understanding is women of old, they liked the long twisty donuts. And the reason is because once they would cook on one side, they'd flip themselves if the oil was deep enough. Apparently, the round donuts don't do that. You have to flip them by hand. So, we look like we're good. I'm gonna flip it. And I'm going to let my oil heat up just a little bit longer. You can see that our donuts have risen a little bit, so they've had a chance to rest. Our oil is good and hot. We're going to set those in there until it's ready. That doesn't take long at all. These cook very quickly, so you want to have your pan that you're going to pull those out on already lined. Get mine on a lined pan. To get any excess grease off, but while they're hot, when you get them out and you can let them soak or drain the grease for just a second. See, these are almost too brown. I walked away for just a second. They'll be good. I mean, don't get me wrong, but a little lighter is actually better. Anyway, so after you put them on your cloth, then you're going to dip them into either sugar or a glaze. I have a chocolate glaze and I have a clear glaze. They're not much darker down there, and they're going to be ready. And those are done. And it doesn't take long at all. Okay, I'm ready to glaze these, and I notice as my frosting is set, my chocolate frosting, because it's not really technically a glaze, is still too thick though. You don't want it to be as thin as a clear glaze, but you want it to be thin enough that when you dunk your donut in, it adheres to it. instead of having to spread it. So it's kind of that consistency where the glaze is much thinner. And then all I do, they're still hot, I just dunk it in and I set it on a cookie sheet. They're hot enough to where they're almost too hot to touch. But if you wait till they're cold, then your frosting is more of a spread instead of a glaze. Again, you can put these in powdered sugar, or now if I do the glaze, I do both sides. I like chocolate more than the glaze. You can put a little cinnamon in your sugar if you wanted. I'm going to throw one more batch in. Now, if your oil's not hot enough and you put them in before it's ready, it's kind of like the rolls. The dough gets tough. You're going to have a tougher pastry. And these are, again, I fried donuts, but they're a yeast donut, so it's not like they're a cake donut. A cake donut obviously would have to fry longer. So you probably, I'm guessing, between 2 to 3 minutes overall time, maybe 4. My heat's a little bit hotter there towards the back, so I'm going to slightly roll those around. Now they're starting to turn. Another part of a minute and it'll be done. Oil that I use is organic. I think this is organic palm. Alright, so that's our video on donuts. Let me know if you like the recipe, and let me know if you don't, if you think there's an improvement that can be done to it. I'm always looking for new ways and better ways to do something for my family. But this is what you end up with this recipe. So, thank you for watching. Have a great day. God bless.
Eat your heart out.